so we can get representation from all of you that have come to share with me, let's cut our little speech into about 2 or 3 minutes so everybody can share. Our governor is not here, but he sent a representative. Let us now receive him as he comes.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Elliott. My name is Keith Jackson. I'm the Interim Secretary of Justice and Public Safety for Governor Beshear. So I bring you greetings on his behalf. And as we commemorate and think about what today represents, we look at Dr. King and when he opened the doors of our people. Yes. And the mind that he had was brilliant. And he was touched by the divinity of God. When you think about the verse Exodus 3:14, when God spoke to Moses, and he went before and initially Moses questioned his ability to go before the people of Israel. And what God told Moses is that you tell the people of Israel that I am what I am. And so it led Dr. King, as he was born Michael King, right? Michael King Jr. And in the transition of his divinity, his father changed their names to Martin Luther King Sr. and Martin Luther King Jr. And he followed the teachings of Gandhi. And in it, he learned that peaceful disobedience is good disobedience. And in good disobedience, there is change. Gandhi changed the country. Dr. Martin Luther King changed the world. So God bless and keep you as we move forward and give our commemorations to Dr. King and what he represents to us in this country. God bless you all.
Look, when Reverend Elliott tell you to get up, you get up. First giving out the guy who's ahead of my life, to Reverend Elliott, both Reverend Elliott's, to Bishop Lyons, and to every minister, deacon, and elected official, and to all you all. I love these services because they are nothing but a booster shot. Follow me. Services like this is where we come together and we reflect on the joy and the greatness that we come from. We get that booster shot to redirect what keeps the main thing, the main thing. And the main thing is simply this. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams.
Yeah, boy. All right.
Both my grandfathers joined the military, signing their names with an X.
Yeah, baby.
And they get to look down and see their son, Philip Baker, serve as a Louisville District 6 Metro Councilman. But I'm a firm believer that it's not about me. It's about people be what they see. It's time to let our kids grow. It's time for us to take your booster shot and take the charge with you. That this is serious business, y'all. We are the only line of defense against those who hate, based on your gender, who you love, what you make, what you look like. So I ask you to do the same. Take the booster shot today. And when you get home, know that we all here to serve. I'm humbled to be here to speak in front of you all. Thank you, Dr. Elliott, for everything that you do. I wear a size 14, and they're still not big enough to fit in those shoes that you laid. But I ask that heaven smile upon each and every one of you all. But know that it's going to take every single one of us. And know you are your ancestors' wildest dream. Thank you all.
Hold it. I want to present you as the non-marshal, being such a very wonderful leader. This is given to you from who?
From who? No.
From the Reverend Charles Elliott.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank each and every one of you all for this word. It means so much. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Well, afternoon, church. And last night my phone rang. It was late. It was after I got home with my beloved Lacey T. Smith. Everybody say more. Hi, Lacey. And on the other end of that phone, it was Mayor Craig Greenberg, and he was so solemn, and he said, I need you. I need you to step up and represent me tomorrow? And I said, yes, sir, because my mama raised me to show respect to those who are leading the way. And I said, what would you like me to do? He said, I've already spoken with Reverend Charles Elliott Jr. He knows you're coming to bring, my instructions, Rev, were to bring 4 minutes and answer the question, where do we go from here? And then the mayor sends a text and says, here's the speech that was written for me to give, not that you need it, but in case you do. So I'm not going to talk about all the things that the city is doing. We're doing a lot on behalf of 5,800 people who work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, providing the services all across this city. I'm going to answer the question, where do we go from here? I got 4 things to leave with you today, my brothers and sisters. Here's where I think we go from here. First, we must know who came before us and never forget. Second, we must know our history, tell our history, teach our history, all of it completely and accurately. And when we do that, we will live out knowledge bears responsibility. The third thing that we must do as representative of Mayor Greenberg and carrying his torch of his legacy, which he's going to serve his 4-year term to do, that is make education the key, the first thing, equitable, accessible for all, not a few, for all. And fourth, brothers and sisters, are y'all ready for some common sense solutions to complex challenges? I'm talking about gun sense, not just in America. I want gun sense in Kentucky. Senator Neal, can we count on you to lead the way in Frankfort to get some gun sense in Kentucky? Yes, we can. I know we can. So there we go. Together, we're gonna be in unity. Unity. And we're going to do what that great book taught us to do. That great book said, fear not, love one another. Where there is darkness, the door will open and the light will come. Those are the 4 things I think we need to do. So now, what I have to say to you, my brothers and sisters, is that on January 15th of 1929, January 15th of 1929, a little black boy was born in Georgia. His name was Michael King, and he went on to become Martin Luther King. We have to know who came before us. But then, that didn't wake us up, America. The birth of that little black boy didn't wake us up. It wasn't until October of 1929 that the stock market crashed. That shook us up, that woke us up, and then go with me on a very short journey. In 1955, a black girl, a black woman, had the audacity to sit down on a seat, and Martin Luther King decided to lead some boycotts. Lord have mercy. 1957, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference was formed, and he was named the first president. Not so fast. One other thing happened in 1957. January 15th in 1957, I was born. I was born the first child outside of a coal camp where my mother was orphaned. Yes, she was. And then go on, 63, he stood on the steps. And it was another person we have to remember, Mahalia Jackson. Had it not been for her, we'd never have I Have a Dream. She coached him, she led him. 64, we had civil rights. 65, voting rights. 68, Fair Housing Act. I could go on and on. I'm going to take my seat because let me say, brothers and sisters, it wasn't April 4th where the darkness came, when the bullet rang out in front of the Lorraine Hotel. It was on February 1st of 1968. It was pouring rain in Memphis, Tennessee, and there were 2 men, Echo Cole and Robert Walker, hanging on the back of the garbage truck, picking up trash that people were throwing. They sought refuge and shelter in a building because they were born black in America. They could not seek shelter in that building, so they grabbed onto the truck and hopped in the compactor compartment. We know the history. Then they were killed. Then there it was. March 29th, ASME, Local 1733, Todd Dunn, that led that strike, my brother. And then it was March 29th of that same year, Martin Luther King landed in Memphis, Tennessee. But on April 4th, it all came to a screeching halt, or did it? Because he was standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Hotel. And one more person, we got to remember who brought us where we are. Got to remember who brought you to the dance. It was a musician. And Martin Luther King said, "Ben, play me Precious Lord." That's what we need to play today, Reb. Precious Lord, and play it real pretty. So Martin Luther King passed. He died so we could live. Reb, thank you for the honor and the privilege and pleasure of being with you today. I love you today and I love you tomorrow. Thank you. Amen.
Bless you. Bless you.
I'd like to just speak a minute. I did this last year, and I'm a history major, and one thing I learned from a very wise professor is the first thing about history is that people don't remember nor do they follow the lessons of history. So very briefly, I want to talk about the man who killed Martin Luther King, James Earl Ray. He was born in 1928. He died when he was 70. But he was a petty thief and a crook from Missouri. He was sentenced to penitentiary in Missouri, and he escaped in a bakery truck at one time. And off he went down to do these other things that he did. But you know, the 60s, people talk about the 60s as being a decade of assassinations. And I don't have to remind you who was assassinated during the 1960s. But in March of 68, Mr. Ray went to a gun shop in Alabama, and he bought a .30-06 caliber rifle and 20 rounds of ammunition. I'm sorry, he did that in Birmingham, Alabama. He drove back to Atlanta, was reading newspapers, and read that Martin Luther King was going to be in Memphis in a couple of days. So he headed for Memphis, and he rented a room in a roadhouse not too far, so he'd have a line of the balcony at the Lorraine Motel. He killed Martin Luther King with a single shot from that rooming house. He was killed on that balcony, and the witnesses say Ray saw Ray fleeing from the rooming house. A package was found close to where he fled with a rifle and binoculars, and his fingerprints were on that. This is the interesting point about Mr. Ray. He fled to Canada. He went back to Atlanta. He then fled to Canada, and he tried to become a mercenary soldier in Rhodesia. So he was on the run. He stayed in Portugal. He eventually got back to London, and on June 6, 1968, at an airport, when he was trying to get to Brussels, Belgium, he was arrested. So, needless to say, Reverend King spoke frequently, and he's been quoted frequently. And he spoke about voter suppression, racial bias in hiring, police brutality, unequal funding for schools, and for better working conditions, which is exactly what he was talking about and the reason he was in Memphis, Tennessee that day. There are a lot of quotes about Dr. King. The most famous, of course, is the one that begins with, "I have a dream." That's the one that people hear mostly. But I found a quote I'd never heard before, read before, and I thought it was very, very interesting and kind of typical of the way he thought and how persuasive he was. He said, quote, "We all have the drum major instinct." Bear with me. We all have the drum major instinct. We all want to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction, to lead the parade. And the great issue in life is to harness the drum major instinct. It is a good instinct if you don't distort it and pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need for being important. But, and I say but again, I want you to be the first in love. I want you to be the first in moral excellence, and I want you to be the first in generosity. With those words, thank you very much.
It is wonderful to be here this morning, and I will tell you, it is also, it's intimidating. It's intimidating to literally stand in front of Dr. Reverend Elliott, marched with Dr. King. How do I explain the significance of this day to a man who has been a part of the struggle his whole life? How do I explain it to a room full of people with a lived experience with the remains of systemic racism that I personally do not know? The answer is I can't. But as Dr. King wrote from a jail cell in Birmingham, he said, we can't be silent. And the position I occupy for the time being cannot be silent on what continues to happen. Now, when Dr. King said the arc of the moral universe is long and bends towards justice, he has been quoted so many times as saying that, but we take it out of context. The full quote is that evil may so shape events that Caesar will occupy a palace and Christ a cross. But that same Christ will rise up and split history into AD and BC, so that even the life of Caesar must be dated by his name. Yes, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. And in that quote, he borrows it from an abolitionist preacher who has a longer version of that quote as well. And what has always bothered me about that quote is that we act like it is inevitable. And not knowing what to say to this room today, I was inspired by Sister McIntyre when she said we're in church. If you want to sum up the Bible in one verse, to me, it's from Micah 6:6 to 6:8. The only time God is asked a direct question and gives a direct answer, what do you expect of us? To do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. To do justice. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 24, he says, he who hears the words of mine and acts on them will have a house built of rock. We must act. The arc of the moral universe King talked about is not just on earth, and it is us who must continue to act, because 30 years ago, this very day in Louisville, Kentucky, there was a storm that all of us remember. More snow than I've ever seen in my life. The storm of '94. As we gather here today, although it's cold outside, there is another storm approaching in this city and in this country. We have a Supreme Court that is gutting the Voting Rights Act and is attacking affirmative action. We have a United States Congress that is defunding diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. We have a state legislature that is going after our public schools, is refusing to teach real history in the Commonwealth. We have a former president of the United States who is ahead in the Republican primary right now, who has said the Civil War should have been negotiated. I don't think we can negotiate or compromise on the issue of slavery. So if you look at the full context of King's quote, and as we remember his legacy, remember the legacy of people like Reverend Elliott, like Senator Neal, like Georgia Davis Powers and Maddie Jones and others. As we reflect and we remember, today let's also recharge, because it is up to us to act and make sure we are truly bending towards that justice. I will leave on a hopeful note, though. It was Frederick Douglass who said this: I do not despair of this country. The fiat of the Almighty, let there be light, has not yet spent its force. Thank you.
Reverend Elliott, thank you for affording me the opportunity to address this assembly. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
And also thank you for all that you've done historically, what you do now. You've been in the struggle. I've worked with you through the struggle in many instances. I appreciate, and I think all here appreciate what you've done. But I have to say that my mother, I have to talk about my mother.
Yeah.
And I have to talk about my father. Because they are the ones that taught me how to focus on issues that are important to the people and what it meant to stand up for the community. And what they told me, the first thing you do, whether you agree or do not agree with someone, is show them respect. That's important. They also told me this, that only love is a building element that brings us together. And that those who are hurt have a tendency to stray from that principle sometimes. The principle of respect, the principle of love, the principle of working together. Because our greatest weakness in this community, I will tell you, is disorganization and those who are hurt and express themselves in ways that are not building blocks. See, because if we attack each other, we are aiding those who would have us be weak, regardless of your intention. So I say to those who agree with what I'm saying and those who disagree with what I'm saying, one thing we must do is show respect to each other. Secondly, what I would tell you is this, is that we should reach out and know one another. You know, you can attack anybody and not know them and never had a conversation with them because your frustration, your disorientation, or because you want to do well and you mean well. But the question is, does it build or does it destroy? Does it help or does it hurt? Does it take us forward or does it take us backwards? I tell you that the key to our ability to strengthen this community, to do those things that I know we all want, a strong community where not only everyone is respected, but our young people have a pathway to be effective in going forward and building our futures that we all embrace. What I'm saying to you is this, and this is my main message today, is that when we attack each other, when we do not work together, we don't work toward together, when we disagree and cannot sit around the table and find common ground in the solution, that's what the enemy wants. That's what feeds the enemy. So those who do not understand that, or feel that hurt or that anxiety, because it's true, what's out here is real. We're in a period of reaction. There's no question about that. After slavery, what happened? They came right in and compromised that. Black codes were instituted. To do what? Suppress black people. After that, what happened? They segregated the society. They segregated the society what? To control black people and to advance the interests of those that wanted that control. What did they do after that? They continued that process until all that time, black folks, white folks, and other folks of different colors fought for the freedom of all because they knew that at the end of the day, it was a matter for us to fight for what was right.
Yeah, baby.
I doubt if anyone in this room does not mean well. In fact, I think everyone in this room is here because they want to do better. They want better results. I respect that. So I say to you that the key to what we have to do going forward against this period of reaction, and I guarantee you it is a strong period of reaction, that even where I operate, even where I represent, even where there are individuals there that I speak with every day that are sitting right beside me that do not have your interests in mind, that it is you, not just me, because it ain't about me.
No.
It is you and me, it's all of us that's going to make the difference.
Yes.
And if we don't come together,
Together.
if we use the forces that those that are against us wish us to use, and that is to divide us,
Yes.
if we participate in the process of not coming together, communicating, finding common ground, and moving together, then we're weaker.
That's
So
right.
my message is just this. Yes, we're in a period of reaction, but we've been in periods of reaction before. And what did we do? We persevered. We came together. Folks like Martin Luther King. Remember Martin Luther King. Everybody can wrap their arms around that thought and say everything is so great. And even people next to me that worked against him vehemently and work against his principles now just love Martin Luther King. But remember, they hated Martin Luther King.
That's right.
They worked against Martin Luther King. Even some people in our own community militated against Martin Luther King and those who gave support to his effort. And now it's all perfect. Now they've put a pretty history around him and so forth. That's not the way the struggle went down. The struggle was tough. And those on the front line, those who put their service before the people, those of you that step forward and build and not destroy, those who want to make a better future for all of us, I applaud you, and together we can do that, and God bless you all.
I had my speech ready, but there's no time. I do want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you, Pastor Elliott, and his son. It has been an experience. I want to introduce an amazing pastor that I come to know through former state representative Attica Scott. Pastor Miles and his church Greater Friendship are real people. So I'm excited, and I've been holding it and just to hear him. So before he comes up, we're gonna have break this up and have some song. And I encourage you all to stay involved, stay invited, and know that we feel you, okay? Thank you.